Hi, I'm Chad Zekiel with Help on Demand. Today I'm with John Newmeyer and Laura Leighton. We are going to talk a little bit about technology and its impact on the healthcare marketplace. And first we're going to start with Laura. She's been a broker and done a lot of work here in Colorado and wanted to share kind of your experience and your background.
Thank you, Zach. I've been a broker here in Colorado for about 2 decades. I started in the health insurance, we call that T65, under 65. And over the last 5 years, I've moved more into the Medicare area. And in the beginning of my career in insurance, we would get leads from, if we worked for a carrier or if we worked for a field marketing office or a general agency, they'd provide us leads and we would drive to an appointment with a paper app and we'd go out in the country. We'd go anywhere and sit down face to face, maybe make a sale, maybe not. And that would be our day. We'd go from person to person, appointment to appointment. And that's how we worked. And, fast forward to how many years ago? 4 or 5 years ago?
Yeah, it's probably been 5
years ago. I want to call it the big wave, Help on Demand came in, and that was brought in at the time the Affordable Care Act was passed, and we had our own marketplace here, and it brought people to the broker immediately. And nothing worked very well. The software at the marketplace did not work. Had it worked, it would have been even better.
More seamless.
It would have been much more seamless, but it didn't work so well in the beginning. It's working better now. Mm-hmm. And Help on Demand brought the consumer to the broker, and we were able to immediately give them service and help them move forward with their policies and everything like that. So it changed everything. There was no more getting in the car. There was no more going to somebody's home if you didn't need to, because you can do everything electronically.
Well, and I know you, in a lot of the brokers started out, 5 years ago, our official name of the organization was Big Wave Systems. And, while that's still utilized within the organization, we just thought a few years ago that, does that really describe the technology and the way that the system is utilized today? And so within the last couple of years, we changed the name, if you will, to Help on Demand, which I believe, and I think we would all agree is a little more realistic to what we actually do. I mean, it's quick. It's 24/7 live on demand. We're going to make that connection. You're not going to have to wait on hold, do all those kind of things, and it's fast. And so
that is true.
So Big Wave is still out there. You may see that even on the website, but now it's really more Help on Demand, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. So you've seen a lot of change in healthcare. There's always change in healthcare. What would you say has been the biggest impact, maybe in the last couple of years?
The biggest impact is the delivery of healthcare and how we are using telehealth, virtual meetings. Carriers are now directing brokers and producers into the social media arena and helping brokers learn how to use social media, because it's harder now to meet face to face.
Right. Yeah, because before, don't always want to continue to talk about COVID, but that was a game changer for a lot of things. Mm-hmm. Because you were having community meetings and you were doing all those kind of things to help people get enrolled. And, now everybody's looking for a technology option, if you will. So I know at the early beginning, you were involved with Connect for Health Colorado and receiving referrals through the Help on Demand system then. Tell me kind of how that changed your business then and now with what's recently happened in the world. How's that made a difference using that technology?
So Help on Demand, when it first came in, was unusual because we always had to go out to find our customers. And now they're just coming to us and we're calling them. So we can do everything over the phone. We can do everything through email, scanning, faxing. But once COVID came in, and we were all in our homes and home offices, which I think is going to persist. I think people are going to stay in home offices more, even after COVID.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that we need the technology, and we need more of it to be able to help consumers navigate. And I believe that as there's still a lot of consumers, older consumers, that can't use, they aren't really schooled in technology.
Right.
But as we age in, it's going to change, and the younger consumer wants technology. They don't really necessarily want to meet. I think the human touch is always great, but a lot of people don't want to meet. They would rather do it through a virtual call or through some kind of telehealth or telemarketing.
Yep. Absolutely. What kind of change have you seen in the delivery of healthcare? You mentioned telehealth. Certainly, that's we've seen huge growth all over the nation for a variety of reasons for that, especially COVID. But what other changes have you seen in the delivery of healthcare?
I think the centralization of the record keeping.
Yep.
So there's a lot of carriers now who consolidate all their records.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that if you have a lot of complications with your health, and you don't have to bring a stack of records with you to your doctor appointment, they've got it.
Right.
That's a big change, and I think there's going to be more of that.
Have you seen, like with the insurance carriers, and being a broker and an agent, you represent lots of different products, lots of different companies. So have you seen a difference in how they're working with you as a broker, maybe even with the consumer out in the field because of things that have happened?
Well, and I think I'm not alone in this, but we brokers, if you're easy for us to access technologically, we're going to go to you. We're actually, not because we are steering anybody, but if you're easier for us to use with technology,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to just default to you because our lives are busy and they're packed. And if if it's trouble and it doesn't work and we have to redo it, we're not going to use that carrier unless we have to. So I think in the carrier area, they need to get up to speed with their technology.
Yeah, I think that bears out in some of the studies that have been done recently. There was a study by Qualtrics from last year that pointed towards 81% of the large companies are going to do something, make a major investment in how they will go to market and how they'll address the consumer. And the reasons are, one is they found what drives the consumer satisfaction. The first one is emotion. So if that transaction, that experience created a good emotion for them, usually trust, right? Trying to build trust with consumers. That's the first thing. The other one is just ease of use. So just to your exact point, the easier it is for a consumer to use your technology or interface with that company and get what you're after, that's a big deal. And then the last one is just reliability. So, if you can do all those things, it drives a better outcome. And specifically, they talk about it drives two different outcomes, which most every company is looking for. The first one is really around the fact that you get repeat buyers. You'll keep coming back. You'll keep selling business with that particular carrier in your case. And the other one is Net Promoter Score. We talk about social media and different things of that nature. They really, a lot of companies, bigger companies, have endeavors or initiatives around Net Promoter Score. So how are they willing to represent your company on social media and other places and recommend what you do as an organization? So it has a big impact, and I think the studies support it is the bottom line.
I
Well,
think
and
all those points were great.
Yeah, and I think, you look at a lot of different kinds of companies have changed the way consumers purchase products these days. I mean, we all want, in a sense, instant satisfaction. We want or gratification, if you will, to, I want to buy it today, get it tomorrow, and I don't have to wait. And we've all been on frustrations with where you call into a call center and you're on hold for 30 minutes. And
Yeah.
so technology is making a huge change in all those kind of things. And So I know that you probably have some experiences of customers that have used maybe even past brokers or whatever. And so in the world that we're at today, what do you think kind of helps you differentiate how you do business and stuff now versus maybe the way you did it 10 years ago?
Great question. Let's just talk about the big wave. When we get a lead from the big wave and somebody has been playing with the marketplace in Colorado and they can't use it and they get red flagged and they can't move forward and it's not taking their information and then they're working 3 hours on it, but they call the broker. And we do this all the time, every day. We know the workarounds. We can call the broker's center part and just get it done. So when they hear that, oh, just give me this information, I'll take care of it and then I'll call you back. Or if you want to stay on the line with me, that's fine too. That changes their whole, they're so relieved to have somebody who can work the system and they don't have to do it. They can go on and do something else with their time and go back to their work that they're trying to get done and they're frustrated about. And so the frustration on the consumer side is just totally lifted up. And that goes for brokers who have a lot of experience. So I would think that it does take experience with all of it to be able to just say, hey, no worries. I've seen that 50 times. Don't worry about that. And so that's really changed things on the big wave side. We could use more big wave, in more areas of insurance. We really could.
Yeah, well, and I think that leads back to more of the insurance carriers of wanting to adapt to change. We both worked for carriers in the past, and they have sometimes very antiquated legacy type systems.
Yes, they do.
And they're not conducive to a great customer experience. And so I don't know what your thoughts are, Chad, but
yeah, I think they're holding phenomenal amounts of data when you think about all the different parts that come together to create the healthcare system. You have the provider side and how physicians interact with carriers. We have the broker side and how they interact with carriers. I think you made a point earlier. I think we're starting to upgrade, especially on the clinical side, to be able to give people better tools to make decisions. But as the technology continues to come along, I think we'll all benefit from better adaptability and integration of tools, similar to, say, Help on Demand or other tools that I think will just continue to accelerate with the technology.
I think they need to do more.
Yep.
I think carriers need to take it seriously and do more for ease of use. If you please a broker, they're going to work with you.
Well, and it's about the customer experience.
Because the broker can have a good customer experience.
Yep.
If the broker is frustrated because they can't get software to work, that isn't making their day great. And so, yes, we're not going to take it out on a customer or a consumer, but it affects everybody.
That's true.
Can you talk about that for a second from the consumer side? As you've worked with hundreds of consumers through Help on,
Probably more thousands.
Hundreds or thousands of consumers through Help on Demand and other tools like it. How does a consumer react to that type of customer experience and the ease of use?
You mean like working with
working with you through the Help on Demand program.
Oh, like I said, it was a game changer.
And when you say game changer in a matter, what specifically did you think, wow, this is so much different, or even from the consumer's perspective?
Right,
Because the consumer now can say, okay, I'm frustrated, help. And then you get to a broker immediately. You don't have to wait. You don't have to wonder. And then that broker has the experience to say, I only have to listen to a minute of that conversation until I know what they need.
It's true.
And then I can take care of that. Then, of course, there's problems. There's stuff comes up. And so we can go through the back office, or we have different means to get things solved. They don't have that.
What do you see as the most common? You said you can usually know what's going on in a minute. So what are the kind of problems you see or you're able to solve in a short period of time like that?
Well, let's say somebody's putting in data, but it won't let them move forward. Well, I can call my broker line and get that resolved like that, because I know if it's an SEP, if it's a special enrollment issue, or if it's just if there's a problem just with the software, I can say, hey, you know what, that's not working right now, so give it a day, I'll work on it, so that they don't have to wonder what's going on. Is it just me? Or
and just to clarify, so you're saying they're having problems navigating enrollment for open enrollment, as an example?
well, you've got to put a lot of stuff in there, a lot of information. So maybe you've put in all your information, but somehow you didn't do it right. I've had somebody put that their 12-year-old child is incarcerated because they didn't notice that they had checked, is anyone incarcerated? And they said, yes. We couldn't get that through. We couldn't get the child onto the plan. So we went back in and we looked at every question in the application and saw, and it was funny kind of, and changed it. And then we got that application through.
And so that person was on the exchange doing their open enrollment. They had an issue. They hit the help button and called you in minutes, and you were able to help
Well, I
them
called
solve
them.
it. Well,
Yeah.
yes, you got the you got contacted through our system, and then you were able to call the person, help them
And
immediately.
yeah, and then if we're not able to pick up, it automatically after a few minutes goes to a different broker.
Interesting. That's good real example information.
Mm-hmm.
What other positive experiences have you had as a broker using the technology
With the big wave. or-
with Help on Demand? Yeah.
Just that, so somebody might call in and say, I need this and I need this. And because of a broker's knowledge, we do have to do a lot of testing and all of that every year. We might be able to say, hey, you know what, you can't do that right now. And we can tell them, we can help them, we can inform and educate them on the rules and the Affordable Care Act rules and what they can and can't do at that time. So that helps the consumer. We can help people move over to Medicaid. Maybe not, we might not do it for them, but we can say, here's how you do this, and really be a big help to somebody who feels alone and stranded and they don't know what to do next.
At least you're a positive resource.
You know, I have all the numbers for every P office in Colorado. So I can do that. If I have time, then I'll actually help them do it. We can answer lots of different questions that they don't have access to.
Okay.
I just have a question just around product. As consumers go on to an exchange or, through a normal, say, commercial market for individual, I think the biggest problems in healthcare are like cost, access, quality, all those things, right? And we're working on those, but we're not getting them done fast enough. And so now a lot of products that are out there really drive to changing health systems or going to a very narrow health system. Do you end up fielding a lot of questions around that? How do you help people through that type of can be a pretty big decision on where they seek their care?
True. So you'll go through you'll look at networks, you'll look at doctors, you'll make sure that you know their medications, their doctors for each carrier. You'll know what segment that carrier serves best. So you'll be able to help that consumer see, you might want to take this carrier. No, you won't get that, but you'll get all the other needs that you have met. So you can help them with that. There's just innumerable ways to help a consumer. And a lot of consumers in the beginning especially thought, well, I'll just change my income so I'll get more tax credits. And then they get charged by the federal government when they do their taxes. So we're there to say, no, if you do that, you will feel it at some point if it's not the truth.
On April 15th or May 15th or whatever
Yeah.
the date is, yes.
And you can actually help somebody understand tax credits and cost sharing reduction and how to apply that to their decision when they decide on a policy
Okay.
and a carrier
Yeah.
and networks.
What do
A
you,
lot of help. Sorry.
no. So the advantages, if we were today talking to an insurance carrier, and you work with many of those, for example, what would be the message you would maybe kind of share with them? Maybe you've already done this about utilizing technology like help on demand in general in business. What would be something you would share with them to kind of say, hey, you guys need to be using this?
Any organization that has lots of people calling in to get help would want to use help on demand in some capacity. And then it would need to probably to be finessed to that organization.
Mm-hmm.
But it does change the landscape of how they get their consumers the help they need and to be satisfied with it.
Well, and the difference is help on demand. We talk about it only from a sales perspective instead of, it can be used for claims and other types of situations that the carriers
Absolutely.
have. We've talked a lot about brokers, but we're in a lot of different industries. So we could be in manufacturing, we can be in healthcare, dispatch services, educational opportunities, or whatever. So there's such a huge need for this service out there.
Absolutely. I kind of look at it like if there's a huge volume of services you reference, so good volume, that there's also typically if there's a change in demand or a change in seasonality for that business, it really helps then. If you think of open enrollment and things like that, now we have special open enrollments, that's another way. And then it's important, right? Is it something that is important to everybody involved? The company that sponsors it, and as well as the consumer. If it's important, then all those three things come together. I think it's, as you said, a no-brainer.
Well, it's especially important if you think about the busy times, like when you're saying open enrollment, where everybody's rushing in, the herd is rushing in. That's an important time. So it cuts time. It just cuts a lot of anguish. But on the times when it's not busy, that's equally as important because where are they going to go then?
Right.
Where do they find that resource at the time where it's not that busy?
Yeah. Well, we talk a lot of statistic numbers, for example. So, 60% of the consumers that go on a website that has help on demand, or, for example, for you was Connect for Health Colorado. But for us, 60% of the consumers that go on a website that have help on demand become a referral. And then our numbers as an organization over multiple different types of industries is, typically it's between 27 and 52% of those actually close as a sale. Speaking in the world of the broker world today, I guess I'm curious, number one, if you're willing to share that information, is, of the referrals that you get, do you generally close 50% of those, 80%?
90%.
Okay. And then, I'm always interested because we're not on the side of you getting that consumer calling. What's the reaction when, they've reached out, and I think in their minds, which I would be, is like, am I going to have to leave a message and wait 2 days for somebody to call me back? What's the reaction when you call them quickly? I assume that you're reaching out to them pretty much immediately.
Relief.
Okay.
Relief, and yes, you get a lot of referrals. And sometimes you'll get somebody, like for me, I've moved over to Medicare a lot. That's my preference.
Okay.
That's not all I do, but it's what I prefer to do. And I'll get somebody who's 64 and a half from the big wave And then I say, oh, by the way, I actually have moved over to Medicare and I'd love to help you do that. And they're like, wow, I didn't know what to do or where to go. So now I've just helped somebody with the marketplace and help them with their Medicare. That happens a lot.
So it's helped you sell more than maybe, or offer more than one
Yes.
specific product, because it's kind of getting you in the door at least with that consumer.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you said 90% of them end up becoming customers. Why do you think that is? What's your experience, and what would you put on that?
My experience.
So good help on demand,
Mhm.
great help on demand.
Yeah, it needs to be called great help on.
Well, and I think it gives you a competitive advantage, right? Because I mean, there's salespeople in multiple industries out there that don't have the access to
Yep.
something this quick to make that contact. And I know personally, if I'm purchasing something and I've left a message, and time 5 minutes seems like a day sometimes.
Mhm.
I'm going to pick up the phone and call a competitor. And,
Sure.
because I'm thinking nobody's listening, nobody's going to call me back.
Yeah, but I also think that there's a component of education too. So if you get somebody who is a veteran, seasoned, whatever you want to call that, they'll be able to say, hey, you really want to be able to do X, Y, and Z. Something that would be a pitfall with a brand new broker, somebody who doesn't
That's true.
have that experience. So, but that's just the way it is anyway, with anything.
I have an interesting, well, it might be an interesting question. I've got a question. So, from your perspective, you're working across multiple carriers and in a very high volume, important marketplace. If you could spend money on where carriers and other businesses you interact with, where should they spend their next technology dollar?
Software.
To do, and for what end?
Broker, consumer.
Okay.
Software.
Okay.
But it would make it, because you can think of software, some do kind of backroom underwriting, for example, and stuff. When you say software, are you talking front-end consumer-driven software? Are you talking customer management systems to manage client? I mean, when you say that, software is a huge
That's a big
term.
word. Okay.
But if you were to narrow it down to Chad's point of, what intricate things could make a difference both for the carrier, for the salespeople, and not necessarily insurance. I know we're
Yeah.
talking more
Could be
insurance
anything,
today, but
Yeah.
if you thought through that, what would maybe be the technology or the software you're talking?
I know this is going to be broad too, but information and
Okay.
also ease of use.
Mhm.
So when I fill in that online app, I'm not getting stopped every
Yeah.
5 minutes. So frustrating.
Mhm.
So that it works. And I'm not going to mention the carriers
Sure.
that work better than others,
Yeah.
but I can tell you that we brokers will tend to go to them because it's just easier to use.
So reliable processes that make your job and easier for yourself and the consumer.
Right, because you're already
Yeah.
dealing with a human being
Yes.
who has a lot of needs and they may have a list of 12 medications. You're dealing with a lot of stuff. You don't need it there too. So you want it to work when you're getting the last step in, which is applying and putting the application through.
Well, and during open enrollment, since we're in the healthcare world right now, is, you have a limited time from here to here to get enrollments done. So that's dealing with renewals of existing customers, educating them on the new opportunities, the new plans, all those kind of things. And, Chad, too, is it's just makes such a difference that if I have something to help me speed that up,
Yeah.
and I can handle more volume of customers, I'm number one, I'm going to make more sales. The carriers are going to close more business because of the enrollments. So, when I think of software, it's that how can it return on investment, combine my marketing efforts, which Help on Demand does that, of combining all the marketing efforts and leads into one system and getting them out within seconds, 24/7, because it's live on demand system. out to you as brokers or the salespeople, and again, that's all part of that customer experience.
Yes, and that would be wonderful if we could have help on demand in more areas, in more arenas. And I'm speaking just as an insurance broker, but I'm sure there's, like you said, adjusters, and there's other places that it would be really beneficial. And the people that get that kind of service and it just flies through and it just works out, you'll get referrals and people say, oh my God, I heard that you're just going to get it done and I don't have to worry and you're going to help me understand. Yep.
Yes, I am.
Yes, I am. Because I'm great help on demand. So, yeah, and it just makes everything better for everybody.
Sure.
One of the things we talked a little bit about, but I wanted to expand on, was just how both carriers and providers are really aiming, their eyes towards the consumer and how they might help. And a couple things that I wanted to put out for us to discuss was one just around, how they're doing that. I think there's a lot of things that influence that. One is just cost. Healthcare is just too expensive and everybody's struggling with it. So I think everybody's trying to solve for that. But I think it starts with carriers in a lot of ways with their data warehouse. How can they leverage that information, right? They have information, they're connected with hospitals, physicians, consumers, brokers. There's a lot of connection there. So how do you leverage that information to better serve the consumer? So I know there are companies that are really working hard to have that clinical and other customer service information connect through their customer service teams. They're connecting in new and better ways with providers so they can share information in different ways. So, that's important. The whole electronic medical record and that following the patient throughout the system does good to have an x-ray, out in the mountains or whatever, where you started and have the same one when you get back, right? So how does that information follow you around, and how do we put it into play, in a way that helps and matters? I think those are all things. And I think one of the last pieces that I wanted to mention really is around, again, it addresses cost and the consumer throughout the system is, can we get the consumer educated enough on with good information on how much something will cost at one facility and provider versus another? And I think that's happening now more than it has. The information's getting better, and it's getting more accurate. So there's that piece. So the consumer goes in with an expectation of where to go. The other piece is, can we help the consumer get to the right place of service? I mean, if you're going to an ER versus a primary care physician, urgent care, or some other place that's better cost structure, it matters for everybody involved. The quality's better a lot of times, and the cost is a fraction. So those are big ways that both the providers, brokers, and carriers are teaming up to help the consumer get through the system, navigate the system in the right way. Yeah. Are you seeing it on the broker side as well? How they're teaming up to help consumers?
I thought that was an excellent point. That wouldn't it be great if a consumer could get onto a site and find out exactly what's in my network, a list, and it's easy to get to, and that's happening a little bit more. It's not perfect. To find their formularies easily.
Right.
It's complicated.
That's happening. But when it comes to like help on demand, for the consumer to be able to connect directly with a broker who isn't having to run all over town and all over the state to meet with people. So here's the upside of that. Although not meeting with people is kind of bad. You want to see people.
Sure.
People
Creates trust and
you get to see who you're talking to and have a friend, make friends. But if you're not having to do all that, then that's a carrier, and whoever's implementing that service, that reflects on them, because now that carrier, or in this case, Connect for Health Colorado, is making it easier for the consumer. The consumer might not like the law or the tax credit they get or whatever, but they're not mad that they got to talk to a broker
Right.
right away who knew what they were doing and who could help them right away. So it does reflect back on the reputation of the person using that tool. And in this case, it's the help on demand tool.
Well, when you think of customer experience, it's a total package. It's you as the broker working with the consumer and the consumer's rating, if you will, of you and how well you took care of them. And then that translates even above that. And I always remember saying that, that experience, the consumer sees the company as only as good as the service you provide. So the company can be a great 5-star company, but if you didn't get back to them quickly, if you didn't take care of their needs and services, that company is not a very good company.
Yep.
And so when I look at consumer experience and company experience and brand and all those things, ease of doing business and stuff for you, but for that consumer is a direct reflection on that company.
Right.
Absolutely. All right, that's a wrap for our first episode with Laura Leighton, who came in to talk to us today about the Medicare and individual insurance marketplaces and how technology has really impacted those marketplaces. Join us going forward on either YouTube or Facebook or other channels as we dive into other areas where technology is impacting the consumer.